Hey, we are rolling. Turono Talks, Volume 2. Everybody introduce yourselves.
Dustin, Wareham, DJ D's Nuts, Mr. 80s favorite babies, all day, every day, up in the building. What's up?
Yo, it's Mike Stoan. You already know.
Yeah.
And your man Maloney, Breaking Wreckords Radio, No Condom Podcast, Breaking Wreckords, all that good shit. You know, we about to get in here. We're about to have some good discussion with y'all today.
Yeah. About to jump into this Turono Talks.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody on the live, they cooperate with us, add to the dialogue, ask some questions. You know, we all about
Tune
that.
in.
And
Drop some lines.
So either way, what were you just about to jump into? The King of the Dot, 10 years.
10 years. Happy 10-year anniversary to King of the Dot. Man. Shout out to PvP. Shout out to Organic. Shout out to Sandeep. Shout out to the whole squad. Everybody involved. You know what I mean? Like,
can't believe it's 10 years for real.
Woo.
That's crazy, eh?
10 years, and they got a movie pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're worldwide. If they're not the biggest battle league in the world, they're definitely right up there with the top biggest battle leagues in the world. So
I think they got to be the biggest at this point.
I wouldn't be surprised. Who's bigger than King of the Dot?
No one I could think, and even the competitors I could think of, like Eminem ain't going to them with a movie. You know what I mean? Like you're doing something fucking right if you're in that rank.
Yeah, absolutely right. So shout out King of the Dot, shout out Organic, man, and these guys took it worldwide, man. I'm definitely proud of those guys. I'm proud to be homies with them and at least, I'm saying not super tight, but at least know them and be able to say, like, yeah, I know the King of the Dot guys, Like,
and actually, do you think, because he's your homie, but do you think PvP, I know he's always stayed in the background and stuff, but he doesn't get the credit he deserves in that movement?
Well, I think it's because he just kind of enjoys the background. I think once he decides that he wants to get out of the background a little bit more and kind of, you know, I think he'll definitely get the credit that he deserves. But yeah, for sure, he deserves a little more
a lot
credit.
of people sleep on, everybody thinks it's all organic, all goalie, you know what I mean? But
yeah, no, definitely. Shout out PvP, you know what I'm saying? He's putting his work. He deserves, more credit. We're drinking the beers right here, so we're burping. Hey. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Shout out PvP. That's my homie. That's my DJ. You know what I mean? And he's one of the founders of King of the Dot. So I always tell people that. I always name drop and be like, yeah, my personal DJ is founder of King of the Dot. Right? You know what I mean? Like, not too many people really know that. You know what I mean? So shout out to him. But shout out to them, man. 10 years is huge.
That's crazy,
man.
Before
King of the Dot, really, we had a few battle leagues and we had 8 Mile. But these guys have literally changed it to the point where Eminem's name dropping them in songs. Eminem's showing up to movies, that are basically based on battles that these guys have done. You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy.
So proud of that. Toronto's not just Drake. Toronto is KOTD, and KOTD has done big things for this fucking city. So shout out those dudes, man.
It's kind of dope too, because if you think about it, especially like me, right? You guys outdate me a bit, but being born in '89, being a '90s baby, growing up, you look at Canadian hip hop, and you had your main dudes,
right?
But you felt like there was no identity for Canada. You know what I mean? In whether you listen to underground or you listen to mainstream, we had our shit,
right?
But we had no global identity.
Yeah.
And I think it's really dope because you fast forward even or backwards 10 years, but you look at it now.
Right.
KOTD represents anyone who's a fan of bars, underground hip hop and shit, KOTD.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And anybody who's a fan of pop, hip hop, doesn't know shit about the culture, don't care about lyrics.
Absolutely.
Drake is on top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we are we're represented in both.
Yeah. To the fullest. Shout out DJ Doctor too, because he's held it down for a long time, and I feel like he doesn't necessarily get the the credit that he deserves, because he's an amazing fucking DJ. So
my
shout out him.
works or worked with him at Real Sports.
Oh, Real Sport? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's dope. That's fuck, man. Pretty good spot to work. All the Leafs games and stuff.
Yeah, she wasn't I don't know. Either way, that's another conversation. But, you know what I mean?
We don't need to talk about exes on this show.
No, we do not.
We moving forward. We not looking back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The only time we looking back is to make progression in a forward manner, right?
Right.
That's what we're about here.
Exactly. But shout out to KOTD. They deserve it. 10-year anniversary. They definitely deserve that. And big things to them, man. Are either you guys wrestling fans by any chance?
I am not.
A lot of them
You're
are
not a
dying.
wrestling fan?
I'm a big wrestling hater advocate.
A lot of them are dying, though. That's the sad part.
Right, that's what's up. I'm a huge wrestling fan, absolutely superly huge wrestling fan.
Word.
So, unfortunately, Jim the Anvil Neidhart just passed away.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, right? I'm sure you know Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
I honestly
talking
don't.
about.
I used to love the Heart Foundation.
Right? The Heart Foundation was the shit.
Canadian product.
Exactly. And you know what's really crazy? You're not really a fan, but there's a picture of the Heart Foundation, and it's Brett, it's his brother Owen, it's the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, it's Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and it's Brian Pillman, who's an American dude who he trained with them. All those guys are dead except for Bret Hart. Like, that is fucking nuts. You know what I mean?
I don't know any of this. Wait, did you say except for Bret Hart?
Except for Bret Hart. Bret Hart's still alive.
Wasn't he the one who fell from the ceiling?
No, that was his brother Owen.
Oh,
his brother Owen unfortunately
okay,
passed away, right?
Yeah.
So he unfortunately passed away. His harness or something broke, and he was coming down doing a stunt. And he had fallen in the ring and hit his head and unfortunately passed away. He was really dope, man. He was younger than Bret, too, but,
Do you know what's crazy, too? I never realized, like, especially when I was growing up, well, I guess, where I grew up, like, it was a conversation me and you had about having to defend hip-hop growing up, right?
Yeah.
And that's why old heads, I think, personally, are so critical of the music that comes out, especially nowadays, because we grew up having to defend hip-hop, right? Now, you guys are older than me, but you grew up in Toronto, so it was here first. I grew up in a smaller town, Brantford, so when I was coming up, I was the only kid in school wearing FUBU and shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, like, shit like that, and, like, people looked at me like I was a fucking weirdo. And so, like, I had to grow up defending hip-hop, right? Finding the good in it and, exposing it to people like, this is why I love hip-hop. It's not what you see. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think that's one reason why we all defend it so strong, but the point I was getting at was, I guess coming up in that time, I never realized how many people that identified with hip hop culture identified with wrestling until Facebook, man.
Well, you gotta understand, you know what I'm saying? Like, they both came into their own in the early 80s. So when WWE and Hulk Hogan's coming to his own, you got WrestleMania 3, you also got Run DMC popping off. You got MTV. Like, MTV is kind of what made WWE what it was. They had a really
MTV?
MTV had an early relationship with WWF at the time, Cyndi Lauper specifically. And, that really helped blow it up on a worldwide scale, worldwide level.
I didn't know that.
So, if you look at the 80s, that's why I like 80s favorite babies. I chose that name for a reason, because most of the things that are synonymous with how we live today, whether it's video games, for the most part, Nintendo home video games, Nintendo, Sega, all that stuff came out in the 80s, right?
Hardcore drug culture.
Hardcore drug culture. There you go. Hip-hop music, you know what I'm saying? Like, all that shit. Wrestling really blew up in the 80s. Cable. The early 80s was crazy for that shit, you know what I mean? And wrestling and hip-hop, they're synonymous because most of the guys rapping, they grew up watching that shit. Especially if you grew up in the East Coast, you grew up watching WWF. So you knew.
And I can't lie, I did watch it when I was a kid. That was around the time when, like, Steve Austin was big and fucking, like, the Hardy Boys and fucking The Rock was still a wrestler, not an actor. You know what I mean? Fucking, but, I think it was one of those things, and actually I wonder if you guys maybe, you would have learned it earlier than me, but I wonder if you had a similar relationship to it in a sense. The only thing is I treat them differently. But so when I learned about wrestling being fake, that's when it did it for me. I was like, oh, that's whack.
Honestly,
and then I just stopped. I stopped giving a shit completely. But the funny thing is, years later, as a teenager, when you learn that hip hop's fake and all these people ain't real, you know what I mean? That's why I went through a really strong period in my teenage years. And rappers that I loved, I stopped listening to because I'm like, this dude's fake. I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even think Rick Ross was dope until like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Because I just for years was like, oh, fuck that fake shit. You know what I mean? CEO motherfucker. You know what I mean?
And then you're just like, fuck, it's just the art. Let me listen to the art.
Yeah, exactly. Years later, once again, I learned to separate art from fucking identity again. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, well, I've been sleeping on Ross for a while. Everyone considers him great. I went back. I'm like, yo, dude's nice. Like,
well, that's how I look at it, and how I kind of look at wrestling is like, you ever promoted a show? Have you ever put on your own event?
Yeah, I used to do it quite a bit.
So I look at Vince McMahon like he's the fucking ultimate promoter. He's the biggest. Whether it's hip-hop or anything, he's the best promoter of all time. Because think about it. He's selling out shows almost every fucking night for how many years now?
Yo, and you know what? When you say that, I never even thought about that, right?
Exactly.
Like, you look at it like a league, like a sport, like something
exactly.
But it's actually just like it's a performance event that goes city to city.
It's like putting on a hip-hop show every night, and you're putting on the best show. This guy's the best promoter.
It's like a Broadway play, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
And he sells out stadiums. That's crazy.
All year,
and the
has a huge
you know what?
Has his own network.
That is a genius in a sense,
The big WrestleMania, right?
It's like the first reality TV.
Kind of, yeah.
It's kind of like the birth of reality TV, actually. That's crazy. And you selling out. Yo, when you put it that way,
No, Vince McMahon's a genius.
I never
man.
looked at that like
really
that, but you're
respect
right.
Vince
He is like a promoter. He literally is a promoter.
No, that's
he
what
just found a genius way of marketing
Absolutely.
the events.
Yeah. And that's what they are. I've read a lot of like biographies of these guys because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And when you start getting to it, it's promoters. This guy's getting ripped off from promoters. This guy's having to travel to these little indie circuits and making $25 to do a show. And you start seeing the parallels and the similarities. You put in
my
years
homegirl, Caitlin Diamond. Sorry not to cut you off, but she's a wrestler right now trying to go pro. She's always traveling internationally.
Please do
shout
it.
Shout out to Caitlin Diamond.
Yeah,
the funny thing about her too is she was the one who got me into hip hop. I already like, your little nuance groups and shit when I was a kid and shit. But I listened to like alternative shit in the 90s when I was a little kid. I like Our Lady Peace. I like fucking like Tragically Hip. I like Oasis. I like I like shit like that. Fucking Limp Bizkit. Fucking it wasn't until like
Who's your favorite band?
My favorite band?
Yeah, who's your favorite act? Like hip hop, non-hip hop. Who's your favorite act?
Well, it'd have to go non-hip hop because like hip hop's my genre at the end of the day.
Okay.
But it's like that's so hard because the older I get, the more appreciation I find for other genres.
Let us know who your favorite
act
that's
is.
super.
Yeah, everybody, let us know who your favorite acts are. That's a really hard one. Well, me personally, actually, it's not that hard because Michael Jackson's my favorite artist of all time. Michael Jackson, hands down. And I liked him since a little kid. Like I always liked like urban music, you know what I mean? But I just wasn't like into rap. Like I knew what I was presented on Much Music, that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like I had Tupac albums, I had Biggie albums, I had I remember when I ripped the Slim Shady LP from my brothers back when we still had cassettes. So I went to his house. He babysat me one weekend. I knew my parents wouldn't buy me the album because I was a little kid. So I went like he was sleeping because he was hungover. He's sleeping till like 2 in the afternoon. I went into the other room with his boombox and I recorded it on two sides of I think it was like an Aerosmith cassette I had. I just put the tape over the holes. You know what I'm saying? And recorded over it because I wanted.
Someone went to
go
listen to Aerosmith and turn out to be Eminem.
It was my tape.
Okay.
But so either way, the only reason I brought that up is shout out to Caitlin Diamond. She was the one who turned me on to BET. Rap City. It's crazy. You know what I mean? She probably doesn't even like rap anymore. But back then, she turned me on BET with fucking 106 and Park. Like, it was crazy to me to have a station where I could listen to urban music all day.
BET, right?
Yeah.
So there was a time, I know
Street,
Stoan remembers.
Hits from the Street.
Yeah, unless you got it on VHS.
Exactly. There was a time when I had to go, shout out to Omar and Ray Henry, man. Those are my dudes from the Verns back in the day. So we had to go to their house because they had a satellite dish. They had a satellite dish, so we were able to go to their house and actually watch BT. But unless you had a satellite dish, man, you weren't getting BT.
See, I couldn't watch it at home, so I go to in grade 4. I used to go to her house after school and we'd watch it.
And we didn't have no hits from the streets. We didn't have no 106 in Park. We had Rap City. We had that Soul Vibe Saturday show or whatever, and and the comedy show, man. We had Big Les and Joe Cleese. We didn't have Big Tigger and none of that.
Word, word. Yeah,
old
like
school.
My early, like
Big
I mean,
Les.
like I said, I owned CDs. I was always CD collector. I listened to hip hop, like the popular shit. You know, I had Biggie, Puffy, fucking, you know, what I mean, the Eminem tape. I had Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. I had certain shit, but I didn't know like hip hop culture, urban culture like that. You know what I mean? I was presented the white, watered down version Much Music always gave you. You know what I mean? So I wasn't familiar with it until actually Caitlin Diamond. So talking about wrestling, shout outs to her.
Diamond,
she turned me on to BT, and it changed my whole fucking life.
Where is she wrestling? Is she wrestling in Toronto? Is she wrestling?
She's international. I think she still lives in Brantford because me and her lost contact for years, and I was out in a bar like a year ago.
Shout out Justin Klitsch as well because he's with Super Kicked, right?
Word?
Was it Justin Klitsch? What's his name? Yeah, Justin. He's with Super Kicked, is he not?
I don't even know.
Jufrey.
Oh, word.
Yeah, Jufrey. I think he's working with Super Kicked.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man. Shout out my dude. Shout out Frozes because me and him snuck into a Ring of Honor event not too long ago. Just straight up side door snuck into that shit. I got a million Frozes stories.
I'll put no comment on Frozes right now.
I was just curious to hear. You know,
I think he got salty with me over like he posted something on a post one day, and I was like, "Fuck off, Frozes," and then he like unfriended me and shit. And, like, then he tagged me on Instagram one day, and he's like, "Yeah, step to this heat," and I think he was like dissing me. He's like sent me these little clips of a song playing off a computer, and I couldn't understand anything, but like I only heard the word white bandana. Yeah, I'm like, "Are you trying to diss me?" I'm like, "Yo, you gotta like at least send me the file so I could like hear what you're saying." fan if you want to like go, if you want to go for the smoke.
Froze is my boy.
You know what I mean?
Man.
I even tried to add him back on Facebook because I didn't think it was nothing serious, but he didn't accept.
Yeah, sometimes on Facebook people take shit too seriously.
Yeah,
it
was
small shit.
And it was some post like
yeah.
I think he put like a sarcastic comment on my post, so I'm like, "Fuck off, Frozes." I was drunk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like he took it seriously. I don't know.
All right, well, I'm sending
love
out to my
for
homeboy
Frozes.
Frozes.
Shout outs to Frozes still.
What's up.
We have your Randy and Ricky masks in the station here still too, the cardboard faces. I got love for Frozes,
that's
man.
another thing. If you're hearing this, Frozes, I'm waiting for you to do the big face Drake Kiki challenge.
Oh,
we already talked about it, but I want to see you do it.
That's that.
There we go.
That's our challenge. Shout out to Governor though. He's saying Onyx, Too Short, EPMD. But Stone, who's your favorite act, man? I'm curious to know who you're like. Who are you really into? You know what I'm saying? Before I say mine.
Of all time?
Yeah, all time, man. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be hip hop. It could be whatever. What's your favorite? If y'all got some favorites out there, let us know. Shout out Governor.
I don't have one favorite.
You're a DJ. I'm a DJ, so I feel it's kind of what you feel like you're in the moment for at that time, or.
Oh man.
It's hard, right?
I'll just say James Brown for now.
Okay.
That's dope. That's
dope.
There's
what's
so
up.
much more, man.
Michael
Jackson.
Yeah. See, for me, you guys might not even ever heard like my favorite act with Deftones.
I knew that.
Oh, see, you exactly. So my closest friends know, and some people out there know, like I'm a hardcore like rock and roll, hard rock fan. As much as I love hip hop, I got a rock band. Shout out my sis Jen. What's up? She's
and your first album had a lot of
rock influence. Well, because even before I worked on that album, I was in a band called 85 East, and we had put in like a good, I want to say 5 years worth of work, probably worked on a full album, right? So shout out to them. But yeah, you know, I mean, Deftones is definitely my favorite act, you know, and it's just dope to have like different eclectic acts or whatnot.
Yeah.
But you know, like I don't know, music's music, you know what I'm saying, regardless and whatnot. So.